The Intake Office. A short story, by Bill Russo. The office was above City Hospital. It was staffed by a handful of old people who sat in comfortable chairs behind desks equipped with computer workstations. If work was being done, the casual observer would not notice it, save for the occasional entry of a bit of data in one machine and the retrieval of a few bytes from another. Chatter was rare among the 4 employees who glanced frequently at a large old-fashioned clock on the wall. They appeared to be waiting for a particular time at which something was supposed to happen, lunch perhaps. A foot-long rectangular sign was affixed to the wall just below the clock. In plain black, block lettering it said, "Intake Office." On each desk were old-fashioned wire mesh baskets. One for incoming, and one for outgoing. All of the baskets were empty. The workers sat motionless and without expression except for the brief, rare instances when they checked something on their screens. Springing quickly from his chair, a white-haired man exclaimed, "Someone is coming. Don't forget. I do the first part of the intake. The rest of you can take over after I'm done." The solid oak door of the office slowly opened, revealing a very ancient man who hobbled painfully towards the first desk in a line of 4. "Come in, come in. I am Mr. Hale, the section chief here. Take the seat in front of me and we will get started processing you," said the white-haired man, with the grin of a tiger stalking his lunch. "Thank you very much," replied the old gentleman as he eased himself into a well-padded swivel chair. Removing his battered black fedora, he revealed a cranium completely devoid of hair. "What am I being processed for?" "In due time. In due time, all will be explained. Now then, for the record. What is your name and where were you born?" "I am Whitman Roberts and my birthplace is the city of the Pilgrims, Provincetown, Massachusetts." "Thank you, Mr. Roberts. And your birth date?" "It was over a century ago. I was born during a hammering northeast gale on the 9th of January in the winter of 1912. I came in hollering louder than the storm and I intend to go out in nearly the same fashion." "Ahem," interjected the white-haired man with just a touch of nervousness despite the obvious infirmity of the centenarian, "that won't be necessary here. I just need to ask you a few questions. Forgive me, but in people your age, sometimes there is a certain forgetfulness or memory loss. I wonder if you would mind telling me the name of the current U.S. president?" The ancient man looked puzzled but replied, "Barack Obama, the first person of color to be elected to the office." Hale pecked a few notes into his keyboard and asked his next question. "Do you follow sports and can you tell me who won the World Series of Baseball in 2013? "I do and I can. The Boston Red Sox won in 13 and the following year the New York Giants won baseball's biggest prize. Course they are not called the New York Giants anymore, because they moved to San Francisco about 50 years ago." Hale was nodding his head and punching words into his keyboard while the 100-year-old man spoke. "What about the Super Bowl in football? Who won in 2014? "The New England Patriots, of course. Everybody in the whole world knows that, especially since Tom Brady has been accused of deflating the footballs." "Explain what you mean, deflating the footballs." "I have had enough of this," said the old-timer in a voice much bigger than anyone could imagine would issue from his shrunken old frame. "What is this place? Why am I here? I want to go back to my hospital room. I am leaving." Hale jumped up from his chair and ran around to restrain the old fellow. "Mr. Roberts, sit down. I am sorry for the questions but we have to make certain that you are mentally aware. To be blunt, we can't use you if you are senile." "Use me for what?" "In due time. I will explain everything. Just sit down and relax." With the 100-year-old man calmed down, Hale proceeded to ask several more questions which appeared to be nothing more than a quiz of current events. Mr. Roberts, an avid newspaper reader and TV news viewer, was quite up to date on world and local matters and impressed the section chief with his thorough answers. "Just a few more minutes, Mr. Roberts, and then you can move ahead to the next desk. What did you do for work?" I did not do work, the centenarian vowed, I did pleasure. I took pleasure in my work. I was the Provincetown wordsmith, and perhaps you have heard my poem, The Nocturnal Journey. It goes like this. The lingering night finally drops its sepia coat, to reveal a chemise with barely a glow, to note the slow marching of the orb, from one compass letter, a full half circle to its distant comrade, a heater better. Step after invisible step, its progress a weary stutter, until finally in mid-swing it is as warm as soft butter. Then it commences its sustained and dramatic descent and is too soon gone, and we wonder where it went. The end. Ouch, barked Hale, not to hurt your feelings, Mr. Roberts, but with prose like that it's a wonder you were able to feed yourself enough food to live over 100 years. I am done with you, Mr. Hale, whatever your business is. Send me to the next desk so that I can leave here and get back to my hospital bed. And I too am done with you, Mr. Roberts. I have been waiting for you a long time. Thank you for your answers, and most of all thank you for coming here today. I am leaving now. Move on to the next desk. Hale got up from his chair, took a quick look around the office and strode out the front door without a look back. Please, Mr. Roberts, you must forgive Mr. Hale. Today is his last day. Come and sit in front of my desk and I will explain everything. The old man got up and walked towards an attractive silver-haired woman of about 50 years. Her locks were cut short and framed a youthful-looking face that was decorated with a warm smile coming from full, red lips. Gazing at the pretty woman with the pleasant voice, the 100-year-old man suddenly felt no more than 82 or 83. He walked over to the second desk much more quickly than he thought he would be able to, and settled into the padded seat. I am Maria Hallett, the woman smiled, and I will tell you everything. But first there is a little procedural matter to attend to. We must move to the first desk, for I am now the section chief. The two gentlemen behind me, Mr. Bellamy and Mr. Santini, will also move up one desk each. Just as if moving from one compartment on the back of the subway train, towards the front car, each of the three office workers moved up one desk. Whitman Roberts moved much more slowly now. It wasn't his infirmity slowing him down, in fact he was feeling better than he had felt in 30 years. The numbness in his feet was gone. So too was the overbearing pain that started in his big toes and traveled like a locomotive all the way up to the center of his skull. He was moving slowly because he was otherwise occupied by watching the zoftig form of Maria Hallett as she moved swiftly to her new desk. She wore a form-fitting red dress that was tight enough and short enough to leave little to the imagination. Suddenly Whitman began imagining things that he had not thought of in 15 years. Not since that nurse in City Hospital had told him he needed to give a sperm sample, and then had helped him when he said that he was unable to do so. Maria, for her part, noticed the attention that the 100-year-old man was paying her. She smiled and informed Mr. Roberts that good health and feeling younger was one of the fringe benefits of working in the intake office. But I'm not working here, protested Whitman. Actually you are. Mr. Roberts, you have been transferred here from the hospital. Mr. Bellamy, would you please get some coffee for Mr. Roberts? Mr. Santini, please see if there are any donuts or cookies in the break room. They will be back in a moment with your coffee and a snack. Wit, if I may call you that, she beamed. Please do, he answered. And please tell me how it is that I am going to be working here, and why do I suddenly feel decades younger? Wit, you have left the hospital for good and you are going to be working here for a long time. You must have guessed by now that you are dead. I don't feel like it. You won't. Life after death is very much like before it, except that there is no physical pain, and over time you will be able to be as young as you want. Maria, I think you are full of crap and this is some kind of a crazy dream, but it sure is a sweet dream. My story is much like yours, Wit. When I died long ago in the 1600s I didn't even realize I had been killed. I was at the end of a long pier and was stoned to death by villagers who thought I was a witch. I was yelling at them and telling them that instead of stones, they should be throwing rice at me. I was to be married to the man who just left to get your coffee, Sam Bellamy. But that's another story for another time. Today we are here to talk about you, and your story. Sam Bellamy returned with coffee for everyone, and Joe Santini had rustled up a dozen honeydew donuts. Everyone sat down at a large conference table that Whit swore was not in the room when he first got there. "We know all about you, Whit," said Sam Bellamy, whose olive-skinned face was encased in a wavy mass of gray curls. With a slim mustache and a pointed goatee he looked like a pirate, and in fact, that was his business in life. "The three of us here were all troublemakers whether we wanted to be or not," Sam continued. "I started out hunting the salvage of old shipwrecks, and when I went broke I turned to pirating. I did it all because I thought I needed wealth for my true love, Maria, who is seated next to you. We fell in love at first sight, but instead of staying with her as I should have, I ran off in search of fortune and found the misversion of it, misfortune. Long story short, I am serving a sentence here in this prison disguised as an office. And so are you, Whit. My crime was called consorting with the devil, and I was stoned to death on Cape Cod for it," Maria Hallett said. "But that is not why I was sentenced to the intake office. I was put here because I failed my true love, Sam Bellamy. After our baby died tragically, the town selectmen sent me to jail for having the baby out of wedlock. They gave me daily whippings and put me in the stocks. I was weak and could not suffer the pain. The history of the town of East Ham, where I lived, said that I escaped jail every time I was put in, because I made a pact with the devil. They sentenced me to death for it. But I never did strike any such deal. I used my body to persuade my jailers to let me out every time. I was nothing more than a jailhouse hooker. After the elders shunned me, I had no food and even no clothes. I stole money from villagers and from the town treasury as well. For these crimes I have been in this office for well over 300 Earth years. My crime was theft of land from a Native American," said Joe Santini. "I repaid him $1 million and repented in my lifetime, so I have only been here a short time and won't have to stay long, but I still have to serve out my time." "What about Mr. Hale?" Whit wondered. Joe Santini answered. "Mr. Hale had been here for a very long time. He was a serial killer in the 1500s. Along with a partner, he killed more than 3 dozen innocent people and then sold the bodies to an unscrupulous doctor. The doctor used the corpses for medical lectures at university. Hale and his partner were caught. The accomplice was burned at the stake after Hale turned informer in exchange for his freedom." "Where did Hale go from here?" Whit asked. "Out into the universe," Maria answered. "The high power does not punish eternally. Mr. Hale had a long time to contemplate his crimes. He is now free. So killers get to go to heaven." Whit commented. "There is no heaven. And there is no hell, Whit," Maria said. "As a man of letters you probably love that old poem about stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. It's the same with heaven and hell. It's all in your own mind. You make your own heaven or hell. When Sam and I get out, we're going to make a heaven and we will finally be with our son." "Why did Hale ask me those silly questions?" Whit wondered. "He's just nosy. We don't get any news of the world here, so over the last few hundred years he's become a fan of sports and politics. Since most of the people who pass through here are from New England, he has become a fan of the Red Sox, the Bruins, the Celtics, and the Patriots," Maria explained. "Hale was right about me," Whit admitted. "I didn't make a living as a wordsmith, although I tried. The newspaper was just a threadbare weekly that grudgingly surrendered a paycheck to me that didn't even pay my rent, let alone leave any extra for food, a car, or clothing. So, much like you, Sam, I was forced into theft. I took a part-time job in a store and robbed the poor man's pocket so deeply and so often I almost put him into bankruptcy. I even swiped money from the schoolboys and girls who delivered the newspaper. I wrote poetry, adventure books, mysteries, and even romance novels. I sold nothing. Not once did a publisher accept my offerings. I will show them, I said. I convinced a local business to help me self-publish a Cape Cod guidebook. It sold less than 50 copies. I was born in the wrong era. Back during the Great Depression, President Roosevelt's WPA program paid writers to sit at home and scribble. Joe Berger, a toiler at the weekly paper just like me, was paid over $40 a week for years, to write a Cape Cod guidebook, published and distributed by the United States government. It was horrible. Everybody hated it except a few New York book reviewers who only liked it because it made native-born Cape Codders look like old Yankee fools. Even Joe Berger despised the book and was ashamed to put his name on it, so it came out as the Cape Cod Pilot under the pen name Jeremiah Diggs. "Okay, I'm ready," said Whit, "put the cuffs on me. Chain me to the desk. I'll stay here till hell freezes over." "There is no hell, Whit," Maria reminded him. "There's no heaven either. You shall stay here only until you are replaced, just as you replaced Mr. Hale. There is only one celestial place. It is this one. You are here. Well, if it's not heaven and it's not hell, what is the name of this place?" Whit wondered. "Funny," said Maria. "It's the only real place, yet most people don't believe in it. It is named Purgatory, the end. Of the Intake Office, by Bill Russo. He is the author of Ghosts of Cape Cod, The Creature from the Bridgewater Triangle and other books. On Amazon and Kindle.